Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I am Jack Glass, Mama, Navy vet, certified doer, and the laced up legislator for the House of Delegates 93rd District. Honored to serve. Glad to have you here. This is the morning dew for certified doers just like you. So happy to have you here. So happy to have you be with us this morning. You are kind, you are smart, and you are important. I got a lot to go through today. I'll just say super grateful for the work that is happening and um, our ability to get some things done today. I don't know if you guys have, I don't actually, what have y'all been paying attention to in the news? I would love to hear like what has been on the headline or what is on your mind during these times. Because I feel like I may be in a little bit of a microcosm because I'm in the political world and then I'm in my kids' world and then I'm in my husband's world. And like, I don't want to be disconnected. Like, what's the head? If somebody had to write you as a headline, what's your headline right now? Like, what is the headline for your life? Because one of the biggest things I want to go, today's a teaching day. So if you want to learn some stuff about how stuff popped off and how it's related to what we see happening today and what we can do from here, then you want to be here for this morning dew. Because this is a real like timeline. I'm gonna give you the stuff to spout the facts when people come at you incorrect about what's happening right now. So that's what we're going to do today. And I'm grateful to have you here. I'm making note that you all know it is election season. I am on the ballot, which I know people are like, you're uncontested. Yeah, but I'm on the ballot. So I would love if you're interested in working with us and partying with us on election day. Like we need folks to work polls. You can tap in. You can send me a DM with your contact information. We're going to be getting people racked and stacked. And I just think if you've never done it before, if you have never worked election day, like you should do it with us. I mean, we're the perfect people to do it with. We're the perfect people to do it with. All right, let me get into it. So I've been thinking a lot, not even thinking a lot, reconciling with a lot with my background. So for many, if you don't know, I have a background in Intel. I was what they call a cryptologist. And I think I've explained this before, but I'm going to say it again. Cryptologist, my job was to be able to hear the right noises in the air and correlate them to threats and platforms and different things like that. But I got to work with a lot of different other people. I got to work with other intelligence folks. And we in Intel, right, just as like in your friend group when you're trying to find out if somebody's cheating, right? Like the Intel, everybody comes in Intel. I don't know. I'm trying to think. When you're trying to find out if your kid did the thing and you start investigating, you sometimes have to call on people. Did you see such and such? And you're putting the pieces together. That is the nature of intelligence. It's telling the story of what could happen, what has happened, and present situation. So past, present, future. And looking at today, I see that past, present, future of someone very familiar. And I want to go through the parallels of how a particular thing happened then, what to watch, and right now. So good morning again, Village. Village is a verb. I'm thankful for having you here. This isn't, I don't want to call this a history lecture. It is more like a smoking alarm. What I want to walk you through very calmly and clearly is through how Hitler rose to power, right? Step by step. And I need you to have this in your lexicon so that you understand people were caught off guard, step by step. And we're not doom scrolling. That's not what I'm trying to get you to hear, doom scroll. I want you to learn the patterns so that we can protect our people and our future. And then we're going to talk about what we can do today, because it still comes down to participation and not panic, right? Or passiveness. So here's the deal. This thing did not happen overnight. It did not happen by accident. Here was the headline. Hitler didn't seize power in one dramatic night. Like he didn't do that. He sort of climbed a legal staircase, like step by step by step. He shouted through the media megaphone and he leaned on public exhaustion Folks thought, like the people of the time, they were thinking, oh, this is ugly, but it's temporary. It's only temporary. And then until it wasn't, until it actually wasn't. And that timeline is actually from 19, like sort of, I want to say sort of started in 1930 and goes all the way to 1934 thereabouts, right? So I'm going to stair step you guys through what this looked like, and I want you to mentally, and drop it in the chat if something hits your nerve, or if you think, like, yeah, I've seen something like this recently. I'm going to stair step through what he did, and again, giving you the language, giving you the things to be able to have harder conversations about people. If we continue to say, like, we're not going to be participatory, we're not going to be we don't want to be we don't want to be a part of it. All right, so here's what actually happened for your knowledge, right? So number one on the staircase, right? Crisis and grievance in politics. So what they did was they counted on an economic crash, and I see Miss Charlene put in there a government shutdown and and state politics, right? So they use economic crash, they use gridlocks, and they had scapegoats. So Germany at the time, from 1930 to 1932, they were hurting, y'all. They were hurting. The Nazi Party sort of offered this simple story, a very simple story: anger, fear, scapegoats that grew, like that fueled my brain, that sort of fueled the fire, essentially, right? It grew super fast because people were angry, they were scared, and then they had somebody to blame. If there's one thing you should know in the world of like doing this work, you got to have a boogeyman. If you notice, everybody has a boogeyman, right? Right now, the Democratic Party's boogeyman is the president, and then the president's boogeyman is the left, right? You hear the radical left, that's their boogeyman. So everybody creates a boogeyman, right? Then in 1933, Hitler wasn't elected dictator. He was not elected dictator because remember, some of this started before folks got into office. The elites appointed him as chancellor, thinking that they could control him, but they couldn't, right? So this is 3 years later. Then after I think it's Reichstag fire, there was a temporary decree. So there was a crisis, and the regime pushed what they call the Reichstag fire decree. They suspended what they did in that decree. They suspended free speech. They suspended speech. The press, assembly, and enabled mass arrests. Mass arrests, right? So this is 3 years into this, right? Massive arrests. And what was temporary kind of became normal. What felt that was temporary kind of came normal. You fast forward the next month, they did this thing that was called an enabling act, right? And then the cabinet became parliament. So the enabling act, it let Hitler's cabinet make laws without the parliament or the president. So it was dictatorship by paperwork. Okay, that's a month down the road. Okay, and then what they did was it's a German term called Glush. Don't beat me up if you speak German, okay? Gluschentag, right? So this is they did coordination. This is the step 5. The next step they were on. It was the courts, it was the culture, it was the schools, it was the states, it was the clubs, it was the churches, it was the press. They brought into line with the party all of those things: the courts, the culture, the school, the states, the clubs, the churches, the press. Put them all in line with the party. Independent life was kind of repainted in party colors. So if you feel like right now that your life is being painted by these two colors, there's some parallels. And as I said before, if you've got thoughts and parallels of how you're seeing this today, go ahead and drop them in the chat. Like, this is the perfect time to sort of see how things are overlapping. Then the next step there was they did a purge of civil service and professions. So this was like a civil service law. The law was for, it was restoration of federal professional civil service. So it expelled, right? Listen to this, right? I want you to hear me very clearly. The law was for the restoration of professional civil service. Okay. What that law did was expel Jews and political opponents from the government jobs. So they said, if we're going to get this place right, we got to get rid of the Jews and we got to get rid of all the political opponents from the government jobs. And then it they did bans that spread to lawyers, to teachers, to doctors. You get me? So they started with the folks they didn't like ethnically, ethnically didn't like. And then they went to their political opponents, and then they found ways to start essentially restoring professional civil service by banning certain lawyers, certain teachers, and certain doctors, right, that didn't align with them politically, right? We're only in May of 1933, and where the steps started, right, where this is a month by month by month, right? From once Hitler got appointed chancellor in January of 1933, right? They did the emergency. They manufactured that emergency in February of 1933. They did that rule of decree that I talked about, right? Making the cabinet make laws in March of 1933. Then they did the whole, coordination of everything, brought everything in line with the party in the summer of 1933. They did the civil purge in April of 1933. And then in May of 1933, they did what sort of a smash to labor and civil society. So independent unions, they got them dissolved. They arrested all of the leaders. They banned strikes. Workers folded into sort of a state-controlled body. Where are we at right now in life, y'all? Where are we at right now? And I want to give you, after I go through this, I want to touch base with you and let you guys know about a conversation I had with some of our congressional leadership about the government shutdown that I think you need to know just to manage expectations, especially if you have a loved one or you have a business that could be affected by the shutdown. So we're only in May of 1933, right? So we get rid of the unions, we get rid of now fast forward to July, that's just 2 months later, they did what was called a one-state party. So there was a law against the formation of new political parties. There was a law, and we're not there yet, but if you look at where we are on the timeline, that made the Nazis the only legal party, right? We're only 7 months in. Then they governed by propaganda. And if you missed it, I did a whole live on what is propaganda and what that is, because I think people hear those words and don't know what they mean. But if you need to, we got to learn that language so that it doesn't just sound like people are spouting stuff at it. So they did propaganda through the military and through police and paramilitary. So the message was centralized. It was that crushed dissent. It could feel like orderly if you kept your head down. It could feel like you were doing the right thing if you just kind of kept your head down. So you govern by propaganda and fear, right? Just put your message out there to influence folks and then scare the fuck out of them, right? Then in June, around that same time frame, they did a removal of all of their internal rivals. So they called the Knights of the Long Knives. So there were these extrajudicial killings that consolidated Hitler's personal power and won the army's blessing. So they had to do sort of a military loyalty test and get folks out of the military, right? So that, yep. And so she says, we're seeing this, we're seeing the implementation check off items have been completed. Miss Charlene says, just checking off these items one by one, right? And I want us as a general public to have some knowledge of this so that we can move forward with truth and know that people are not being hyperbolic. We're, especially as a person who's watched this happen, studied this happen in other places and feel like we're on the verge of something. Here, not on the verge, we are on the verge of something. The next sort of extrajudicial. So those are the 10 steps that they took, right? So here's what happens step by step. This is what Hitler did step by step within a matter of 7 months or so, right? Created a crisis, put them in a state of emergency, decree rule by decree, coordinate with other profession, purge everything. Purge the people, purge the professions, so that you can create this one party, get the media and all those things together so that they can feel your propaganda, And then you can make people really scared and feel like the best thing they can do is put their head down or hide, and then purge the rest of your rivals. Each step looked at legal, temporary, or not my problem. Each of those steps look like, oh, they can do that, what's within the law, or oh, it's going to be temporary, or it's not affecting me. Together they ended that democracy. Right? So I want you all to drop in the chat which step surprised you most. Which step feels familiar as a tactic and not like as a timeline. All right. So how did he get overthrown? Right. And then this is just for us to have the words in the argument. How did he get? People ask me, so how do people overthrow folks like Hitler? I'm going to tell the truth with love, right? I'm going to tell the truth with love so that we can be real and manage our own expectations about what the world looks like right now. And remember, I'm not exactly saying how the parallels are, but I'm saying I want you to draw in your mind what you're seeing today and how that overlaps. And then again, I'm going to go through some of the stuff, the news that I've got about the government shutdown that you all want to know, right? You want to know this. So once we get through this, I'll get there. Okay, so with love, Nazis didn't rule. Nazi rule didn't end with the domestic overthrow. It collapsed under an external military defeat, right? Their allies invading from west, from south, saying this, right? The Soviets recircling Berlin. Hitler ultimately killed himself in 1945. Germany signed an unconditional surrender in 1945. But that was some years. That was 10 years of over 10 years of mess. The resistance, it existed, but there was German resistance, right? There was German resistance. It was brave and it was costly, but here's some of the folks that did it. If you haven't heard of the White Rose students, it was Hans and Sophia Skroll. What they did was they passed out anti-Nazi leaflets. They were arrested and killed though, right? And I'm going to say this out loud. Yesterday, I was just watching the press conference with all of the conservative, influencer, and the guy pulled out the flag and he immediately said, well, hold that flag so we can prosecute this person, right? Right. So there was Sophia and sorry, my dog. I'm going to give my dog. In the mid-40s, there was Operation Valkyrie. Some of you have heard of this. Senior officers tried to assassinate Hitler and seize the state. The bomb failed to end it, but mass executions followed. Remember that military test, right? And then parts of the confessing church, right? Parts of the confessing church opposed the Nazification. Many of them were imprisoned and executed, which is why the church was so important in the peace. But their courage mattered morally and historically. It didn't topple the regime alone, but it mattered. So the takeaway here, y'all, is that authoritarian systems try to make resistance feel isolated, like it's only and late, like we're doing the things, but it's just we're doing them too late, and it's only that group of people over there. The safer route is actually early civic work, right? What can you do now? And I'm going to talk about that, and that's what that's what keeps the power sort of bounded by the rules, right? Early civic work. I watched some stuff in Chicago where they were like they had folks running. So here are the guardrails I want us to keep our minds on. That I need us to keep our minds on as we look at where we're going right now, because this isn't they're out there. This is know the mile markers. Right? Or let me not say that. This isn't like we're there. This is just understanding the mile markers that we can hit. And here's like your field guard, I want to give you like a field guide. They would give us to know where we're going. Number one, I want you to understand temporary emergencies with no sunsets. So putting out orders that have no sunset, but what I mean by a sunset, when we're lawmaking, a sunset tells us that we're going to do this until this point, and then we're going to reevaluate it at that point, or it ends at this point. If we don't reenact something, it has a sunset. So when you see the government creating these temporary emergencies with no sunset, be allergic to emergency powers that suspend rights without tight expiration and oversight. February of 1933 is when when this movie that we're talking about Hitler started. All right, the rule by decree, not by debate. When leaders brag that they can do it all without legislators, without courts, believe them. That was the enabling acts point. If you're not familiar with the enabling act, I want you to put that in your back pocket. Go ahead and type it into your Google search right now. The enabling act, that was the point of that. The second mile marker, or the third mile marker I want you to pay attention to, is coordinating with culture. This is where the creatives come in so hard. I need y'all to understand is that we've got to get our creatives doing the thing. So the third mile marker is coordinating with culture. So punishing media, educators, civil servants, libraries, or artists for not towing the line. Yeah, that isn't a culture. That's not like a culture fight. That's a power play, right? You're going to coordinate with culture. We got to make sure that everybody falls in line. Educators, civil servants, libraries, artists, all of that. The fourth mile marker, I think that's four. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Four. The fourth mile marker is targeting enemies in the state. So loyalty tests in hiring and firing and prosecution are like the dress rehearsal for bending the law. Remember, in 1933, 1933 started in HR offices, right? Like in the HR offices. Oh, I meant to take her off screen. My bad. Yeah, that's where 1933. This is where where he was given the chancellorship. That started in HR offices. And if you're just joining us, we're talking about how Hitler came to power, and some mile markers you guys need to know. Number 5 was kneecapping labor and civic groups. So if watchdogs and worker organizations get smashed and captured, regular people lose their voice between elections. And that is the thing, y'all. These elections are so important. I see all the stuff in the chat. I promise I'm going to get to it. I promise I am. So when you start going after labor groups and you start going after civic groups, I don't know that we're there yet, but we're pretty freaking close, so that we can lose our voice in between elections, because next year's elections is even more important because it's a House election. We have the ability to flip the House, the U.S. House, and that could make the difference. Then that sort of a one party reflex, making it harder for opponents to get on ballots, making it harder for people to get on ballots, making it harder for people to organize, to be heard, is anti-democratic, full stop, right? Like that's what they do. Like if people are listening to you, that's anti-democratic because you're against this one party. And then the last thing is the purges will be sold as cleanups. That's the last mile marker. So all of a sudden, purges of internal rivals framed as housekeeping. I need you to remember that 1934. Rules, we can fight about policy next week. We can fight about policy next week. I don't care where you stand on the political lines. Like, let's say fighting about policy next week, but this week we have to protect the referee. Who's the referee? The referee is the rules, the process, the peaceful transfer of power, all of those things. That is a part of it. There has been some really useful patterns that have happened. They're useful for us to understand. But before I go to those useful patterns, I want to take a look in the chat and just see where we're at. Sophia's brother was Hans. Guy, my brother, is listening, and he was a World War. Yeah. And agreeing with you. Thank you. Yeah, this is the truth. I just want people to see the parallels. Like, folks had their head down and they were just like, I got to do what I got to do. And that I overstand. But I want you to know, like, in that, what happens is we get lost in the sauce. The gullible people allowed simple things first to be taken away. And we were slowly we gave into the trauma. Yeah, that's a fact. And over here, I see Right now, the purge for me, look at what Trump is doing with minorities and immigrants, LGBTQ plus. Absolutely, Mikey. David James Glass says, I'm still against the feds coming in, but talking with some neighbors, some surprisingly seem like they want it. Norfolk's number 25 in murders out of 200 cities. Yeah, it would be, Mikey says it would be dangerous precedent for Virginia. Clearly, Youngkin has not asked for Trump's assistance yet. What we do have to be mindful of, everybody that's here, is that we have an election this year. It's for our governor, our lieutenant governor, our attorney general, our whole House of Delegates. So it's just like the House of Representatives up there, but for the state are on the ballot. And some of your local elections. So you may be electing a sheriff, a Commonwealth's attorney, a commissioner of revenue, and a treasurer. All of these places matter. All of these stations and places matter. I believe that they're waiting and to see what happens in Virginia to determine how they're going to move forward. When Abigail Spanberger wins, I'm 1,000% sure their eyes are going to be set on Virginia. I'm 1,000% sure, like it's going to be, because what memory said, you target all of your rivals, right? So if you want a one-party state, anybody that's on the other side, you have to demonize them. So essentially, they'll start. We'll have some of the same problems that we had when we had Governor Youngkin, and maybe some things will get better. But it will be framed as the day that Abigail takes that office, the day that Governor Spanberger takes that office, that Virginia went to shit. And so now the governor, now they have to come in on large scales to cities like Norfolk or Richmond or Newport News or Portsmouth. So this is why having an attorney general that doesn't play that shit is important, right? You got to have somebody that's going to fight the legal side of things. Because remember, the first thing they did was make things look lawful. They made them look super, 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 super lawful. Like, this is just what we do, right? Like, this is lawful. It's all made us think it was going to be temporary, or made the folks, so they made it look lawful, they made it look temporary, and they made people believe it's not their problem. So yeah, I do believe that there will come a time when, after this election cycle, that we will have to make sure that we have the people in place that are willing and ready to not be in a place where we have one party rule. Hell, I think we need more than two party rule. I know that's unpopular opinion, because I feel like we're always voting between the lesser of two evils. But this is the system that we're in, and you have to, if you're voting for the lesser of two evils, I'm going with not having someone that's not going to stand up to what this regime is doing. I'm seeing David James Glass says there's a Reddit threads. And if you aren't on Reddit, that's a really cool place to be. Just saying threads saying I'm against it. But people are saying they notice the praisefulness and quiet. And it's still a little shocking, the peacefulness, and quiet. Beth says, I'd always point out that things will always be a kernel of truth or something of you want. We'll always have a kernel of truth or something you want. Oh, we want our cities to be safer. Yeah, but do not want the government to send troops to do it. Yeah. There's a kernel of truth. David says, I thought that Youngkin secretly asked for NGVRA is number 11. I'm not sure. We got to fix this stuff. Trump is coming. That is true. Check out, there's got some suggestions for In Bed with the Right. That's good. So there's Beth is giving some feedback of things you guys can get into. I think that, thank you for that resource, Beth. Check out the podcast In Bed with the Right. Scholars explain the right-wing ideas and how they influence our lives. They have a series where every episode is focused on a different month in 1933 in Germany. Y'all, 1933 in Germany was 1,000%, where we need to look at our minds. Like, that happened so fast. Network Novo, shout out to you all doing all the good work. Elections are hope now. We must vote and vote. CD2 is important. Yeah, that's Congressional District 2, and that's out in the Virginia Beach area of Hampton Roads. Support the Fearless Four, Pearson, Porterfield, Smith, and Richardson. David James says, right. Right. And that's what I'm worried about. People say they're against it, but if crime drops, I don't think voters will like that better. Fair. Yo, I think what I want to help you understand is what the resistors did is it's a useful pattern for us to really understand. It is a very useful pattern for us to understand when resistance worked at all. It rhymed, sort of rhymed like this. What they did was they told the truth in public. So the leaflets, we talked about Hans and Sophia, the leaflets, the underground press, naming the crimes, calling people to conscience. That is what's tough. It's because there's so many microphones, but we have to tell the truth in public at every rip. Built small trust cells, right? Safety first, and then widen. So you got this small group of people building, and then widening out into other areas. And I feel like that with the Hispanic and Latino community of like build who can be out and be safe and galvanized, so that we can en masse join into supporting, helping, and ensuring that our neighbors stay our neighbors. They interrupted the machinery, right? They sabotage. The plans to arrest the regime leaders under Valkyrie. If you're not familiar with Valkyrie, that these are moments in history that you can latch onto and sort of see the parallels, and also see it's been dark in other places. It's been dark in America. This is what a time to be alive, to be participatory, to find what's your path going to be in this moment. The last little thing that the resistor did that I think is very useful, they use institutional leverage. For what it's worth, I may call myself a little bit of a heathen. Some of the institutional leverage out there is clergy, they're officers, they're professors, they shielded targets, right? These shielded targets we had, they signaled dissent and saved lives wherever possible. So the translation for you and me is do not wait for the perfect hero moment, because there is not a perfect hero moment. Build habits, networks, and norms that keep democracy sturdy. And that's in your own backyard. Your checklist, and Network Nova said part of it is like the vibes are not going to save us, or not going to save rights. Habits will. And that's why I'm saying I want you to build habits. I'm going to give you 7 habits I think will help. Register to vote. Register, verify, and vote early if you can. Period. Full stop. Register, verify, and vote. Bring 2 friends. Pair up, matter, turn out. Turn voters into multipliers. It matters. Work the process and be a poll worker. I am inviting you to come work with me because we need to run up the store. Help care. If you haven't already, help the nonpartisan staff be on an election line, because this is a part of it. Back up the guardrails, support the independent media, the libraries, the school boards, the unions, the local civic organizations. I am saying this, that they are a part of the play. Right? Thinking about this government shutdown, they are a part of the play. Support them. Libraries, school boards, unions, local civic organizations. I can't say that enough. I also need you to show up, right? I'm going to be going to legislative session here in January. I need you to look at and read actual bills, right? Or read what your city council is actually putting forward on their agenda. File public comments. Public comments can be so powerful. What I love to see on social is people making public comment and going like viral. And I'm like, yes, show up to that town council meeting and give them the business, right? Like, this is important. File public comments, attend meetings, praise the officials who are following the process, even when you disagree. I don't like what you did, but I appreciate that you did the proper process, right? Because we have to normalize that there is a way. We in these United States, we are the United States, and underscore united. We are the United States. We have a process by which we do things, right? And that we need to praise that, even if we don't agree with them. It's important. It's important. Practice distributed courage, right? Correct disinformation in your circles, right? In your circles, practice that. Like, report intimidation. Like, that's an intimidation. Support a neighbor that is being targeted. And then I want you to use your own leverage. If you're an administrator, if you're a clergy, if you're a veteran, if you're a business leader, you need to set public red lines. and say, hey, publicly, no political violence, no illegal orders, no loyalty test, period. We have to spend our privilege. And I know that as from the role that I am in, and I'm going to say it, no political violence, no illegal orders, and no loyalty tests. That's not what we are. We are the United States. That's not what we do. That's not what well, maybe in the past, but we've grown. When you know better, you do better. Correct. That's what I'm hoping. So I want you to pick a role today. I want you to decide, and you're going to drop it in the comments. Don't play with me. Don't play with me. Don't play with me. Like, for real, pick a role. You want to register? This is a job you can do. Roll cards, pick one. And I want you to drop into the chat if one of these feels right for you. Role play. You want to register, help 5 folks verify their registration. Just make sure they're good. Who's going to do that? Drop in the chat if you're going to be one of those people. Are you going to be a process nerd? If you want to be a process nerd, I want you to track 3 local boards or commissions and meetings. I want you to track them on the calendar. Just 3. Pick 3. I don't care if it's the tree commission, the housing, and I'm trying to think of another commission. I always say tree commission because I think that's so funny and important, or the egg commission, because we have one at the state level, right? Commissions, boards, local. I'm saying local, right? 3 local boards, commissions. I want you to process nerd, see how they do business. Do you want to be a guardrail buddy? I'm not seeing nothing in the chat though. Register process nerd or guardrail buddy. A guardrail buddy, I want you to adopt one institution, one. It can be a library, it can be a school board, it can be a newsroom, it can be a union to support quarterly. Can you find one of those things to support quarterly? 1. Can you do that? 1. Or you can be a care captain. Build a small text tree for rides to the poll or for meeting turnout. It could be for a school board meeting. It could be for a city council meeting. It could be for a board or commission meeting. So do you want to be a care captain? And I need y'all to drop something in chat of what y'all plan on doing, right? Who do you plan on being? The register, the process nerd, the guardrail buddy, or the care captain? We've got this, y'all. Both sides are bad. Rules aren't partisan, right? Rules are not partisan. Protect the referee. Argue the next policy, right? Rules are not partisan. That's why we vote. That's what I say. When people say to me, both sides are bad, why should I vote? What I tell them, because you might hear that both sides are terrible. Why should I vote? So the rules are not partisan, y'all. We have to protect the referee, and we can argue policy next week. So if you're down for the process still being there, then you know that you need to freaking vote. When people say to me, my vote doesn't matter, right? I'll say, authorians spend big money convincing you of that. Yeah, they do. Don't donate your power to them, because when you don't vote, you actually donate your power. Like, that is also a commodity, right? When I hear that, that's what I say. If someone says, you know what, I hear you talking about that Hitler stuff. That can't happen here. Let me tell you something. History doesn't copy and paste. It's patterns. It's patterns. It's not going to happen exactly the way. The earlier we act, the less dramatic this has to be. And that's what I'm saying. Right? We've got to fatigue the notes of authoritarian leadership, counsel, and fatigue. You are scrolling past the fire alarm. Do not give the math that they need. Voting is infrastructure. And I believe that voting is infrastructure. Who appoints judges? I do. I appoint judges. I need y'all to know that. I appoint judges for the court district here in Norfolk. Again, voting is infrastructure. I need you to say that with me. Voting is infrastructure. Who appoints judges? Who writes the rules? Who funds the schools? Who sets the police powers? Who draws the line? Voting is infrastructure. Okay. I need you to verify your stuff today. Find your polling place. Do all that. Recruit 2 friends. Do not go alone. Village, I love you all. So hear me very plainly. I love you. I'm grateful for you. I am honored to serve, and I mean it, but go fucking vote. You need to vote like you're fireproofing your house before the spark, not after the blaze. Do you hear me? All right. So what I want to do is, before I go, is give you all an update on the government shutdown. Okay. That's all I got. Right. I'm done with that. I'm leaving that alone, but I want to give you all an update. Let me read the comments before I give an update. David J. Scott, I just want to beat them at this PsyOps game. Yeah, I want to reduce their ammo. I want to beat them. I want to the punch. Norfolk could be the safest, cleanest city in Virginia. We have the talent. I agree with you. Beth says she's been canvassing for Abigail. It's been so great. A big volunteer at her local school. I think that's important too. That is absolutely important. All of it, all of these things, because we're not just protecting people, we're protecting institutions. Okay. Voting is infrastructure. Can I say that again? The rules are not partisan. Patterns, guys. All right. So, and many of you may, well, not many, some folks don't know. I live with a federal worker, right, who has is mandated to go into work without pay. We looked at his check, and it was $700 or $800 short this week, because the first fell in the middle of a pay period. So there's a little bit of angst from me about the shutdown, what it can do, and why it's probably a part of the pattern, right? In talking to some of our federal leadership, I was told that there is not really an end in sight for this shutdown. So remember when I talk about things looking like they're temporary, but ultimately being permanent? There's no end in sight. I was told that we could be in this government shutdown for a year. What I hear is, there's some planning that I need to do to make sure that I'm good, right? Like to make sure that my family is okay. I might need to go get another job. Like there are things that you start mentally sort of planning. And then I'm thinking about my community, who in my community can survive a year without a paycheck, and the rippling effect that does to the small businesses when people cut back, what it does to people, folks that are adjacent, organizations that used to get funding that are now like, it will, degrade the systems that we have. What I thought was even more important in knowing that, this shutdown could be, there's really no end in sight, as part of it was the why. What I was told by by the federal leadership is that in Congress right now, the issue is they cannot come to an agreement on making sure that the guardrails are in place for how the money gets spent. So Congress has the purse, right? And then the executive branch runs the agency, right, and distributes the purse money the way that Congress said, right? That's our Senate and our House. What has happened over the past 8 months? I mean, 8, 9, almost 10 months, or excuse me, let me say 7 months, because it happened into this regime, is that they started taking the money and spending it however they wanted to, right? Reallocating money, not going by the law of the way the folks who hold the purse, which is Congress, said it was supposed to be spent. They are still in conversations about how do we make sure that if we allocate money as the legislative branch, as the Congress, if we allocate money, will it go where we say it's going to go, or are we just making a plan for then the executive branch to do whatever the hell they want to do? Correct. So that is part of the problem. That is why we're still in standstill. Healthcare is like agenda item number 2. So they can't even talk about healthcare because they can't even agree to put the rules in place to make sure the money is spent the way it's supposed to be spent. That's in the House. Now in the Senate, and the House is in recess. No plans for them to come back. Again, they said that it could very well be more than a year. On the Senate side, they're still doing hearings. I don't know if you've seen that, like they're still in session. But in order to get this done, they need about 7 Democratic votes to make they need about 7 Democratic votes to make it happen. And the Republican Party in the Senate has already said publicly that they're not working with anyone. There's a refusal to work with anyone. They're not doing it. So that in lines becomes a problem. We are at gridlock. And remember, like I just told you before, things are temporary until they're not. And this is an advantage, I think, as I process it, just as an everyday person looking at this shutdown. It does some of the work It's almost like it feels like it could be a win-win for an authoritarian leader, because what he wants to do is shrink the government, right? Who's going to hang on for a year without a job, right? But also, as soon as you give me that money, I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want to do. um, Rules matter. And I think that's where part of where we come in. I'm game planning, but if you something comes to you, I think that we have to work together on this. If something hits you or you scroll past something that you think is like, yo, Jack, you got to hear this. Like, I'm processing how to do and be good in this work. Send it my way. Send it to your representative's way, because and sometimes they're still trying to find the words, because I'm looking sometimes like, yo, that's lame. What you doing? What you said is lame. Let me help you out. Let me, or help myself where I see people when I try to do good work. But that's where we're at. I wanted to make sure that you all had that news after we did this talk. So that you to manage your expectations. And that's what I said to the federal leadership is, look, the deal here is I don't hear that in the general public. I hear that you guys are just still there, fussing and fighting with each other. I need someone at the federal level to come out and say, I need the public to know, this is what the public to know, that this could last up to a year. We can't even get them to come to the table. That should be on every news channel. Like, we should see that. I had a person ask me the other day, a business owner, how could this shutdown affect me? I mean, I know I don't get, I don't have the healthcare doesn't affect me necessarily. And I'm not a government worker, but again, what happens when people stop patronizing your business because they can't? And it's not just the government worker. It may be another business owner that's business is now slowed down because of the federal, or it may be a teacher who had a spouse that was a federal worker. It's a rippling effect, and it's going to harm us economically. There will only be if I know anything about these shutdowns is, folks will stop collecting bills and lending to hardship only but for so long, right? Like, it's not only but for so long. So I was telling you that I need you to manage your villages, your doers, your people's expectations. And I need people to say this loudly. They can't even agree. Remember, the rules are important. We have to protect the referee. That they can't even agree that when they allocate money, they're not going to allow the president, they're not going to allow this regime to just do whatever they want with the money illegally. They can't even agree to that. That's crazy. That's your whole job. Okay. So just putting that out there for y'all. Oh, and I'm going to do my good mornings and get my butt out here. Good morning, Jessica Anderson. I love what you're doing. If you guys haven't followed, I mean, I'm pretty sure you probably follow her already, so I don't know why I'm telling y'all this. Jessica Anderson will be a new delegate out in the Williamsburg area. So if you know anybody out there, tell them get out there and get involved. Her opponent. I was telling my husband, we were watching the Jessica put out a video, and you can go to her page and see yesterday where Andy Fox did a truth checker on the work that she was doing, or whether she was being honest about her candidate. Turns out she was being honest. And my spouse was listening, and he was just like, is that true? And he's like, and it's all true. So let me help you understand from firsthand perspective. I was trying to pass a bill that affected the entire Hampton Roads area. And I just need Hampton Roads legislators to join in and show solidarity that we know we needed this for the area. I went to all of the Hampton Roads delegates on both sides of the aisle. I had a Republican legislator in the House helping me out too, that sort of helped out and got it over the finish line. I went to her opponent, Amanda Batten, and said, hey, here's the bill. We've all, such and such is good with it. We all decided, we've decided, and I'm hoping you can join us as Hampton Roads, as the Hampton Roads delegation in supporting this bill on transportation. She goes, I don't really care about that. Like, I said, what? What? I don't really, it's not really important to me. I was just like, what? This is crazy. She got to go. Only 2 Hampton Roads legislators did not vote for it. One was her opponent, Amanda Batten. The other was Baxter Ennis, and that's because he was asleep. And he did not run for re-election because there was too much video of him sleeping on the floor. So just for perspective, tell your people out there to get out and vote for Jessica Anderson. David James class, you also worried about the shutdown will backfire on Dems. I do. A lot of folks need to get educated, but we can't even talk about the ACA. When he says ACA, the Affordable Care Act, we can't even talk about it because they can't get to the baseline of when we allocate this money, it will go to do what we said it was supposed to do. Yep. People don't see the negative effects. Oh, you're welcome, blessed. I appreciate you. I do wish more people would be in the conversation. I want to learn from y'all too. If it goes a year, culture will change. People will start saying, see, we don't need it. You are exactly right. These are dangerous times. Dems need to get better strategy and messaging. They need to get on. We're getting there, right? And I don't know it all. This is because I get taught by you. This is because I get taught by you all. I'm not going to say what you said out loud. Just let it stay in the comments. Talking to people is major, but arm yourself with the information, because you arm me with the information, and that's how we go do good things. Jessica said sounds about right, because it was. That's exactly what was said. I said this. Okay. All right. So I'm grateful. I do want y'all to come out. Look, come work election day. DM me with your information. It is so much fun. It is so much fun. It is so much fun. And to be frank with you, I've decided that I'm not printing a campaign card. I'm using my same information card to tell people, like, this is how I can be of service. I'm actually thinking about Hans and Sophia and thinking about what can we also give out. That's our little leaflet to say that, to shine a light on what we're going to do, what we're going to make happen here in Virginia, and how that's going to reflect up to the federal government and the work that we can do to be of service, and how we got to get how we got to get in the know, how we got to get understanding the patterns. Remember, these are just patterns. They're patterns. I'm way over. Okay. Or maybe not way over 50 minutes. It's not bad. All right. So until next time, I don't see any other comments. I value you. I appreciate you. This has been the morning dew for certified doers just like you. This is what we do because doers getting more done. Don't sue me, Home Depot. Don't do it. DM me. Tell your people, come, let's do it. We work in these posts. It's so much fun. All right, be well. Good luck, Jessica. Actually, I don't need to say good luck. Girl, keep working. And also, I don't care. Yeah, keep getting that attention. I don't know what that commercial said. It said something like, she just is dying for attention. Girl, stop. Go to bed. All right, y'all take care. Make it a great day. Choose it, choose it, choose it.